Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, your shortcut to being well-informed about the world of sport. Today we're tackling something really, really interesting from Rugby the Springboks' recent match against Italy. We're going to try and unpack why a pretty big win can still leave a top coach like Rassie Erasmus feeling, well, honestly frustrated. It's kind of a look beyond just the points on the board, right? Into the mindset of championship rugby. We're drawing insights from a real compelling article that got Erasmus's immediate reactions, gives us a unique window into the psychology and the strategy at that top level. By the end of this deep dive, hopefully you'll have a clearer picture of the nuances behind a win that wasn't quite perfect and what it means for the Britics moving forward. Oh, and before we really jump in, if you're as obsessed with rugby as we clearly are, make sure you hit that subscribe button for Rugby Obsession wherever you get your deep dives. You really won't want to miss what's coming up. Okay, so let's get into this apparent contradiction. The Springboks win 42-24 against Italy. They score 6 tries. Now, on paper, that looks, well, dominant, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Good scoreline, 6 tries. That's usually a job well done.
Exactly. But then you read the headlines, and Coach Rassie Erasmus is clearly expressing frustration. You don't often hear frustrated after scoring 42 points. So how do we, square that circle? A win that feels disappointing, almost like they left something out there.
Well, what's really fascinating, and the article points this out really well, is that gap between expectation and reality for Erasmus and this Springbok team.
Mm.
And this isn't just any team, right? They hold themselves to incredibly high standards. They're always pushing for perfection. So any slip from that standard, even when they win, gets looked at very closely.
Okay.
The source mentions they were up 28-3 by halftime. Now, in most games, that's pretty much game over, signals total control.
Right. You'd think they'd cruise from there.
Exactly. But the key thing the article highlights is they just couldn't build on that lead in the second half. And that's not just a little dip. It suggests a real drop in performance, maybe intensity, after the break. And for Erasmus, that seemed to overshadow the strong start. His quote really nails it. "I guess it's a positive that we scored 6 tries but were frustrated." And he adds, "It's all fixable, but it's definitely frustrating." So for a team like the Books, it's less about just the final score. It's more about the full 80-minute performance. They see every match as, a step, and the lessons from a win that wasn't quite right can be just as important, maybe even more so, than an easy victory.
That's a really key point. So it's not just what the score, but the how. The way the game flowed or didn't flow, the sustained effort, and the feeling it left with the coaches, and you'd imagine the players too. Like a win, but also a missed chance to really nail the game plan. It really shows their internal benchmark is way higher than what the scoreboard might tell us on the outside. Is that kind of frustration, that level of self-critique, common mainly in championship teams? Or do all coaches feel that? What's the psychological effect of knowing you could have done better even when you won?
That's a great question. I think while, all coaches want to improve, this kind of relentless analysis, even after a solid win like that, it really is a hallmark of those elite top-tier teams. For them, it's often not if they win, but how they win.
Right.
And the psychological impact. Knowing you left something on the field, it's huge. It can create this deep dissatisfaction, a sense that, okay, we won, but we didn't meet our potential. And that feeling, it fuels the next training session, it drives those tactical tweaks, and it leads to comments like the ones Erasmus made.
Keeps them sharp.
Exactly. It fights off complacency. A frustrating win is maybe the best way to keep everyone focused, looking at the next challenge, and always chasing that perfect 80 minutes. The article definitely suggests Erasmus is using this frustration constructively as motivation.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting for me. Because that frustration wasn't just, a quick comment after the game. The article says, Rassie Erasmus straight away announced he'd reconsider his pre-planned selection for the second Italy test. Now that's a strong statement right after a win. You don't usually hear coaches openly questioning selections like that so decisively after putting up 42 points.
No, you don't.
What does that signal about the challenge Italy actually posed? And how Erasmus is thinking strategically now?
Yeah, that immediately makes you think, doesn't it? What exactly was the challenge from Italy, the Azzurri? Erasmus deciding to rethink selections, it comes directly from how that game played out, especially the second half. He specifically mentioned the challenge posed by a young and hungry Azzurri.
So it wasn't just talk.
No, it seems like genuine concern. He'd apparently already said 13 or 14 players were penciled in for the next test. But because of how this first match went, their roles like starting versus being on the bench might totally change now. So maybe some guys who really stood out in this game get another start, or players planned to start might now be subs. The big thing for Erasmus, he said, was needing a team that can go 80 minutes, not just 50 or 60. That's a direct reaction to Italy's fitness and resilience.
Hmm.
The Thors points out, Italy made 120 tackles in the first half.
Which is huge.
Incredible number. And yet, they still managed to finish stronger in the second half. That stat alone tells you so much about their conditioning, their spirit, and their ability to just keep applying pressure.
It seems like that really caught the Springboks a bit off guard later in the game. Italy wasn't just there to make up the numbers. They put in a massive full shift and maybe exposed that the Boks weren't quite there for the full 80.
Yeah, that's a massive insight. Sounds like Italy's sheer effort and maybe their game plan really disrupted what the Springboks wanted to do, especially after halftime. Exposed areas where the Boks maybe couldn't maintain that usual intensity.
Yeah.
Erasmus called it a proper test match, said Italy manned up across the board, scrums, mauls, defense, attack.
Yeah. And he mentioned the game got stop-start in that second half, lacking that intensity they demand. It's almost like the Boks thought they could ease off after that big first half, but Italy just wouldn't let them, right? Force them into more of a grind.
That's a good way to put it.
Is there a subtle difference, do you think, from a coach's view between Italy making the Boks play that fragmented game versus the Boks just maybe underperforming a bit themselves?
That's a really insightful way to frame it. Look, there might have been an element of the Springboks not quite hitting their peak for the full 80, sure. But the article really leans towards Italy forcing that fragmented game on them.
Okay.
Italy's sustained defense, refusing to buckle after going down early. Their physicality in those key areas like scrums and mauls that actively stopped the Springboks from playing their usual high-tempo, suffocating game. So maybe less a passive slip from the Boks and more an active disruption by Italy's resilience and tactics.
Great. Italy earned that disruption.
Exactly. Erasmus even noted that when they thought they'd maybe broken Italy with a fifth try, even though one got chalked off for obstruction, they still lost some momentum. That lack of flow, that stop-start feeling, that's what seemed to really get under his skin because it stopped his team imposing their will consistently. But despite those issues, problems with the maul, breakdown, counterattack, the big positive, as he said, was still scoring 6 tries. That ability to cross the line, even when other parts of the game aren't clicking perfectly, that's still a major positive, right? Shows the attacking threat they have.
Definitely a silver lining.
Yeah, shows resilience, even mixed with that frustration. And hey, for those of you listening who love digging into rugby tactics and team selections like this, make sure you are subscribed to Rugby Obsession. We're always exploring this stuff, and we'd love to hear what you think about these kinds of strategic calls.
That makes perfect sense. Italy actively playing a part in that second half. So, okay, despite the frustration and the clear need to reassess things, there were definite positives. They won, obviously. That's number one in a test match. 6 tries is good going. And importantly, no injuries, just a few bruised egos.
Yeah.
So what does that balance mean moving forward? This mix of frustration, but also positive outcomes, especially heading into the second test. It feels like an odd position, but need to fix things.
Yeah, that phrase bruised egos is really telling in pro sports, isn't it? Especially at this level. It's very human. It suggests, okay, the physical toll was low, always good news in rugby, but the mental performance, the tactical execution that was seen as below their own very high bar.
Hits their pride a bit.
Exactly. Hits the pride, that drive for excellence. Erasmus confirmed the selectors would be doing some hard thinking about the 9 players needed to round out the team for the next match. And this constant review, this tough internal look, even after a win. It's just vital for staying at the top. It's not just about the W, it's how you win. Always chasing that perfect 80 minutes, not just scraping by. That's that championship mentality.
Always looking to improve.
Always. Always looking for that extra edge, pushing themselves. They know what was maybe good enough this week might not cut it against a tougher opponent down the line. That's the kind of thinking that keeps teams great, maintaining excellence week in, week out.
Yeah, that level of analysis after a 42-point win really underlines that championship mindset. They're not settling. They want consistent dominance, and that means being pretty ruthless with themselves. And the source asks a really good question for all of us watching. Should Rassie Erasmus shake things up in the Springbok team? Given Italy's fight back, given Rassie's own words, does he need big changes or just some tweaks around the edges? We definitely want to hear from you on this one. What do you think? Send us your comments. Let us know your thoughts on what Erasmus should do. We're keen to get your tactical take. So wrapping this up, what does it all mean? Well, our rugby obsession deep dive today, I think it's shown us that even a strong win on the scoreboard can be pretty complex underneath, full of strategic lessons, moments for reflection. Rassie Erasmus's honesty after the Italy game gives us this rare insight into that relentless chase for excellence in top-level sport, where every single performance gets measured against the highest possible standard. It's a powerful reminder, isn't it? Victory isn't always just about the points, but about the process, the execution, the lessons learned.
Absolutely. The journey matters.
And it leaves us with this really interesting thought to maybe chew on. In any competition, sport, business, even personal goals, is a win that exposes your flaws, that forces you to confront weaknesses. Is that actually more valuable than an easy, perfect win? Because maybe it forces growth, forces adaptation, makes you stronger and more resilient for the next challenge. Definitely something to think about in your own world. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us on this Rugby Obsession deep dive. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to Rugby Obsession so you don't miss out on any more of our explorations into the world of sport and beyond. We'll look forward to listening to our next episode.